Negotiations, compromises, and war. Key takeaways from Zelensky's interview with Piers Morgan next. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy gave an interview to British journalist Piers Morgan. During the hour-and-a-half conversation, the head of state spoke about the importance of partner assistance, the path to peace, and the role of the US president in coming to a just peace for Ukraine. On US assistance.
The help is very much needed. The aid is not stopped today. It is going on as it has been going on for the last year or year and a half, when some processes were slowed down. Unfortunately, important things did not come to us in time, but over time they did come, which made it possible to support our army, strengthen the armed forces, and, of course, defend ourselves against the enemy.
He also added that Ukraine has begun to produce more weapons, with 40% of the total for 2025 being domestic.
Of course, without US assistance, or with very slow assistance, we can lose our territories. It won't happen so suddenly, as they say, or even some people think. Some enemies, as they want it to happen, it won't happen like that. We will stand strong enough. But of course, if the US contribution to Ukraine's defense and security today reaches 30%, you can imagine what will happen to us without these 30%.
If the United States stops helping Ukraine, it will have an impact on European leaders and the amount of European aid will decrease, he explained. And then we will depend not only on the assistance of the United States, but also on the risk of disruption of assistance from European countries. And then it will no longer be 30% or 35%. It will be at least 60% of our aid. And so this risk of losing our territory and Putin's victory will certainly increase. On Ukrainians' elections and legitimacy. Putin's only wish is that we do not exist. It is clear that I am not suitable for them because they need their puppet man here. They need their man to run Ukraine. As for my legitimacy, I was elected by 73% of my population. Our people of Ukraine, 73%, Zelenskyy said, commenting on Putin's statements about the illegitimacy of the Ukrainian president. Speaking about the likelihood of elections in Ukraine, Zelenskyy once again noted that it is impossible to hold a vote during the war.
Of course, the war will end. The hot phase of the war will end. And when martial law is lifted, elections will be announced. It is necessary. We are defending democracy, and it is necessary. But understand one thing. Today, everyone understands that if we stop martial law, which is what Putin wants, it will mean that our army will return home for the most part. Who will defend us? What security guarantees does Ukraine have?
On compromises, today we cannot return all our territories. Of course, we are adequate people. We cannot sacrifice millions of our people for the sake of a result that is not clear whether it will be achieved, Zelenskyy said, adding that legally Ukraine will never recognize the occupied territories as Russian.
There can be no compromise on the sovereignty of the state. In terms of time, yes. Unfortunately, the support provided by our partners today is not enough to push Putin completely out of our territories. We will return it. Yes, it may be combined somewhere on the battlefield, what our military is doing today, somewhere diplomatically, somewhere over time, but we will still return our land.
President of Ukraine also emphasized that there will be no legal compromises with the territories.
As for the rest, I will tell you frankly, when someone says, "What is Ukraine ready for?" Ukraine is ready, first of all, for the end of the hot stage of the war. We want peace more than anyone else in the world because we have the war. Third, let's be honest, Putin is a murderer and a terrorist. This is a fact. And let's be honest, if our allies believe that we need to move to a diplomatic path.
Zelenskyy said, "I believe that we are ready to go diplomatic and that the US, Europe, Ukraine and Russia should be at the table, but aren't there enough compromises? We will talk to Putin. One conversation with this motto is already a compromise for him," he said. Zelenskyy added that it is necessary to stabilize the situation as fairly and strongly as possible without risks for Ukraine, for Europe, and for the world. On NATO and nuclear weapons, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy asked what would protect Ukraine if Ukraine's membership in NATO were to happen at some distant future date.
All this time or all this way, what support package, what missiles? Will we get our nuclear weapons back? Let us get our nuclear weapons back. Or we will be given a package of long-range missiles in such a quantity that we can stop Russia. I'm not sure about that, although it would definitely help. On the other hand, what missiles can stop Russia's nuclear missiles? This is a rhetorical question.
So then, let's do this. Give us back our nuclear weapons, give us strong missile launchers. Partners, help us finance a million-strong army and send your contingent to those parts of our country where we want maximum stability of the situation and for people to have peace. Zelenskyy added that if Ukraine is not in NATO, then why is Putin on Ukrainian land? Putin attacked Ukraine because he was afraid that Ukraine would become a NATO member, but we are not NATO members. Get off our land. On expectations from Trump, Zelenskyy said that US President Donald Trump had invited him to the inauguration, but in a very generalized way, like other leaders, probably. But he did not go because the moment of the inauguration is the most important day for Trump, and it would not be very appropriate to come because Trump would not have time for personal, serious meetings.
He has a lot of domestic issues, but historically, we need to end the war on his watch. And we really need to. I think it is important for us not to delay and to do everything to prepare a common vision, a plan that is clear, simple. If it can be simple, of course, ending the war cannot be simple. But we should concentrate as much as possible on ensuring that the war ends without prospects of its return.
He also added that Ukraine deserves a just peace, and today the timing of the agreements, the strength of these agreements depends on President Trump. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and